trenches, trenches, trenches. Florida State making a big focus going into this offseason with Tony White, Florida State's new defensive coordinator, and Terrence Knighton, Florida State's new defensive line coach. As we know, Odell Hagan's moving off of the field to a different role. And this time, Florida State getting some good news in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball, with Darrell Jackson Jr. announcing his return to the Florida State Seminoles in 2025, taking his name out of the 2025 NFL draft. I'm going to tell you why this is some good and big news for the Seminoles. Let's go and hear from the announcement right here with Darrell Jackson.
Throughout life, you experience highs and lows. It's been an honor to represent Florida State. Last year was not close to the standard, and I want to lead this program in the place we all expected to be. With that being said,
pressure up the middle forces him out of the pocket. He's going to be dropped. Darrell Jackson.
That's 6'5", 330, Darrell Jackson.
And Ward is going to get sacked again by Darrell Jackson Jr. And they're the first statement play of the night for Florida State defensive front.
I'm back.
So, Darrell Jackson, I'm back. And to me, this is a win for the Florida State Seminoles. I'm seeing some positive and negatives. We'll go to the positives first. To me, in my opinion, Florida State needs depth here. They need starting depth, in my opinion. I think they need guys that can be playmakers. And Darrell Jackson, I think, can be that. He's a guy that fits this 3-3-5 scheme very well with what Tony White likes to do. I like fitting him too with a new younger coach like Terrence Knighton, a guy that they can now look up to, a guy that was very successful in the NFL. And I think Terrence Knighton brings that new energy that is needed across the board. And I think that's something that also helped for Farmer to say, hey, you know what? He probably did his own due diligence, looked at what the agents were saying, got a grade back, said, maybe not. And it's time to run it back for another season, which, in my opinion, needed to happen. Anyways, as we know, one of his closest friends and former teammate as of right now, Joshua Farmer, and I say as of right now, we'll see what Joshua Farmer intends on wanting to do. I think his grade is most certainly going to be higher, and we'll see what happens there. You know, we could see Joshua Farmer could return to with Darrell Jackson, but for right now, Darrell Jackson is the one returning here. But these two, you know, they went back and had a relationship all the way going back to their time at Gadsden County. I know there was some chatter during the offseason before going into the 2024 season about NIL, and that's where you saw a lot of the negative reaction coming from the fan base. And also, too, they thought they were getting a better product than what they saw from Darrell Jackson in this 2024 year. And, you know, to me, we didn't get to see Darrell Jackson play in 2023 because of the NCAA, and they restricted him from playing until he got out of that fall semester. We only got to see him play against Georgia in that year. And, you know, you can't ever grade anybody off of that whenever they're just getting let go and able to actually play and participate. But, you know, too, you look back at the relationship, Florida State now bringing in Devin Reespress coming from Colorado. Reespress actually coached both Joshua Farmer and Darrell Jackson, but now with Reespress coming in, going to have ties here and going to have the role on the recruiting side of things. This made sense as well and probably helped in Joshua Farmer coming back to Tallahassee for another season. For looking at his 2024 season stats, it was not pretty. It's pretty ugly. And the first little bit of the season, I'll be honest with you, I think we were expecting to see a lot more a bigger factor of play from Darrell Jackson. And you just see the size, 6'5", 330. You know, he's a mammoth of a human being, but I think a lot of his technique was off. And, you know, it goes into coaching, but also, too, it's about your mentality and the way that you want to work. If we're looking at the stats, 32 tackles, 4 tackles for loss this season, 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass deflection. His best game came against Miami, and 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. As we know, he came over from Miami. And during his whole career, though, he's played in 38 games, 15 starts, 84 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 2 pass deflections. Like I was saying earlier, why is this a win for Florida State? First, number one, fits the Tony White scheme right here. This is exactly what Tony White, this kind of product of a player, the size, the attributes there, physical attributes, fits what he wants to do. And bringing a rush up the middle. And then 2, Florida State's depth, man. It's thin. It's thin. You got KJ Sampson, you got Daniel Lyons, guys that have played a good amount of time. Definitely Daniel Lyons more than KJ Sampson. But now you can match him next to a guy, and I think Florida State's going. We're going to see. We're going to see probably, I would think, 2 to 3 more guys landed in this defensive line room through the transfer portal. But you are bringing in who I think is an absolute stud and a menace and just a guy that's nasty, and Kevin Wynn, which you were able to hold on to in your class during the early signing day period, a top 10 defensive tackle in the 2025 class. But I would expect for Wynn to get in the rotation early just off of the play that fits the style of what Tony White likes to do scheme-wise on the defensive line. But to me, I think this is a win. I know I see a reaction, positive, negative. I think, if Joshua Farmer moves on and does his thing, what does it look like where Darrell Jackson's just dialed in with Terrence Knight, the whole reset there with a new coach, and what that could do for him, I think would be huge. And I think, too, a lot of these players, we are going to see a jump in development just off of what we've learned and seen what Terrence Knight was able to do in Nebraska. A lot of respect for a lot of these players. We're just seeing a lot of these former Nebraska players, saddened by Terrence Knight moving on. But there's a lot of respect for him. And I think, too, just having Darrell Jackson locked in with this new coach and Knight could help in a lot of ways. So interested to see what your reaction is. Drop it down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and make sure to hit subscribe so you get notified every time we release one of these videos to you guys. Thanks for watching.